Hello and welcome to today's video. We're going to be reading the Spiderwick Chronicles, Book 1, The Field Guide, made by Tony Ditterlizzi and Holly Black. Let's begin. Chapter 6, in which they find unexpected things in the icebox. Jared rolled over at the sound of his angry mother. "Jared, you better get up." "What's going on?" Jared asked sleepily, peering up from the covers. For a second, he thought he'd missed school until he remembered they'd moved, and not even so much as set foot in the new school yet. "Up, Jared," his mother said. "You want to pretend you don't know? Fine. Let's go downstairs so you can see what mess you've made." She was right. The kitchen was a mess. Mallory had a broom and was sweeping up broken pieces of a porcelain bowl. The walls were painted with chocolate syrup and orange juice. Raw eggs oozed down the window panes. Simon was sitting at the kitchen table. His arms were covered with the same bruises Mallory had been wearing only one day before, and his eyes were red-rimmed. He'd been crying. "Well?" his mother asked expectantly. I didn't do this," Jared said, looking around at them. They couldn't really believe he would do something like this, could they? And there, on the floor of the kitchen, next to drifts of cereal and scattered pieces of orange peel, Jared saw small tracks in the flour. They were the size of his little fingers, and he could clearly see the imprint of the heel of the foot, and a feathering in the front that might have been his from the toes. "Look," Jared said, pointing. "See, little footprints." Mallory looked up at him, and her eyes were narrow with fury. "Just shut up, Jared. Mom says she saw you down here last night. You made those footprints." "I did not," Jared yelled back. "Why don't you look in the freezer then, huh?" "What?" Jared asked. Simon gave an especially wet-sounding sob. Their mother took the broom from Mallory's hands and started sweeping up the floor and cereal. "Mom, no, the footprints," Jared said. But his mother didn't pay any attention to him. 2 strokes of the broom, and the only proof had been swept away into the pile of rubbish. Mallory opened the freezer door. Each one of Simon's tadpoles were frozen in a single cube in the tray. Next to them was a note written in the ink on the piece of cereal box. "Not very nice to ice the mice." "And Jerry and Lemon Drop are gone," said Simon. "Now why don't you tell us what you did with your brother's mice?" said his mother. "Mom, I didn't do it. I really didn't." Mallory grabbed Jared's shoulder. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're about to start regretting it." "Mallory," their mother cautioned. His sister let go, but the look she gave him carried the promise of later violence. "I don't think Jared did it," said Simon, between sniffs. "I think it was a boggart." The mother said nothing. The look on her face said that manipulating Simon was the worst thing Jared had done. "Jared," she said, "start taking this trash out to the front. If you thought this was funny, let's see how funny you think it is when you spend the rest of your day cleaning it up." Jared hung his head. There's no way of making her believe him. Silently, he got dressed, then gathered up 3 black garbage bags and started dragging them towards the front of the house. Outside, the weather was warm and the sky was blue. The air smelled of pine needles and freshly mowed grass, but daylight didn't seem to be any comfort at all. One of the bags snagged on a branch, and when Jared tugged, the plastic ripped. Groaning, he dropped the bags and surveyed the damage. The tear was large. Most of the garbage had spilled out. He started to gather things again. He realized what he was holding. The contents of the creature's house. He looked at the worn bits of cloth, the doll's head, the pins of the pearl tops. In the daylight there were other things he had not noticed before. There had been a robin's egg, but it was crushed. Tiny slips of newspaper were scattered throughout, each one with different strange words on it. Luminous, read one. Soliloquy, read another. Gathering up all the pieces of the nest, Jared put them carefully aside from the rest of the trash. Could he make a new house for the boggart? Would it matter? Could that stop it? He thought about Simon crying, about the poor, stupid tadpoles frozen in the ice cubes. He didn't want to help the boggart. He wanted to catch it and kick it out and make it sorry it ever came into our walls. Dragging the rest of the bags to the front lawn, he looked at the pile of the boggart things, still not sure whether he was going to burn them or give them back or what. He carried them inside. His mother was standing in the doorway waiting for him. "What's all that?" she asked. "Nothing." For once, she didn't question him. At least not about the junk piles in his hands. "Jared, I know you're upset about your father leaving. We're all upset." Jared looked at his shoes in discomfort. Just because he was upset about his father leaving did not mean he had trashed their new house, or pinched his brother black and blue, or tied his sister's hair to the headboards. "So?" he asked, thinking that her silence meant that she was waiting for a response. "So?" she repeated. "So you need to stop letting your anger control you," jeered Grace. "Your sister works things out when she's fencing, and your brother has his animals. But you—" "I didn't do it," Jared said. "Why won't you believe me? Is it because of the fight at school?" "I have to admit," your mother said, "I was shocked to learn that you broke a boy's nose. That's just the kind of thing I'm talking about. Simon doesn't get into fights, and neither did you before your father left." He studied his shoes even more intently. "Can I go back inside now?" She nodded, but then she stopped with him on one hand on his shoulder. "If anything else happens around here, I'm going to have to take you to see someone. Do you understand?" Jared nodded, but he felt weird. He remembered what he had said about Aunt Lucy and the nut house, and he suddenly felt very, very sorry. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you want to be notified every time we post a video, click the bell icon. See you in the next one. Thank you for your attention. We hope you enjoyed it. The next chapter is going to be posted soon. Stay tuned.